Hi, I'm Amy Deitchley with Indiana House Rabbit Society. I'm here to talk about sheltering rabbits, especially in Indiana, and I've got my buddy Kingsley here, who's a foster bunny, to help me out today. So dogs and cats are obviously the most volume of animals surrendered to shelters, but rabbits come in third place. And we're here today to talk about some of the challenges with sheltering rabbits and why some shelters might choose not to accept them. Um, Rabbits are uniquely classified as both livestock and pets, so some are being raised for food or fur, some are experimented on, and of course, many of us prefer to have bunnies as companions. They are pets who live in the house with us, like a cat or a dog. But these various categories create conflict around humane laws and how that law is applied, how an animal control agency might respond to reports of neglect or a stray rabbit, whether they respond at all, whether they consider those to be under farm jurisdiction versus pet. And in fact, an individual shelter might do spay, neuter, and rehome rabbits and have an adoption program, whereas another shelter may not accept the rabbits at all. And that's something that's can be frustrating for people in the community when they have a rabbit that they find is a stray or can no longer keep, and they don't have a resource to surrender that animal without dumping it to a death sentence outdoors. So I'll talk a little bit about our organization. Indiana House Rabbit Society was founded in 2001. We're a local not-for-profit in Indianapolis. We work all over the state of Indiana. So far we have rescued 1,100, well, over 1,100 rabbits, and we are part of a larger organization, House Rabbit Society. Their website is rabbit.org, and there's lots of resources there as well as on our own website. The larger organization and all its chapters have rescued over 40,000 rabbits since the founding in 1988, and that's quite a bit. And that number alone should tell us that rabbits are in need of help in the sheltering environment. Our mission in Indiana HRS is really around helping pet rabbits. That includes rescuing them, whether as strays or from shelters, neglect situations, helping in confiscations, but also to educate the public on rabbit care and making sure that bunnies are being treated as best they can be as companions in the home. So what have we been up to lately? We pull rabbits directly from shelters, including, I'm sure, many people who've attended this conference. Our volunteers go out and catch strays that people have either dumped or maybe they got loose. They're not the same as wild rabbits. They don't have the coloring and the instinct to survive out in the wild. So most rabbits who are set free don't last very long. So we like to get out there and make sure they get to a safe place. We run an adoption center in Indianapolis. Right now we are closed due to the stay-at-home order, but under normal operation we have rabbits, living there full time and lots of volunteer opportunities at that location. Most of our foster rabbits are in foster homes rather than a shelter environment. So they're getting used to what it's like to be in a house with people and dogs and normal sounds and getting them ready for adoption to a family. All of our fosters are spayed and neutered and litter box trained before they go to a new home. I have a link here for kind of a summary video of what we did in 2019. In the interest of time, I'm not going to play it here, but those of you who would like to see it can catch it on our Facebook page, or you can come back to these slides after the conference to take a look at that video. Some of our recent partners with the IHRS are several shelters across Indiana that we have pulled rabbits from in the last year. We also partner with the Fido Pet Food Pantry to help low-income owners of rabbits get pellets and hay and enrichment items for their pets. We also work with Avian Exotic Animal Clinic and several other vet clinics to provide top-notch care for the bunnies, ranging from routine checkups and spays and neuters and say wound care to more advanced things like bladder stone removal and dental care, ophthalmology, CT scans, etc. So we're busy. We've been busy for a long time, but we can't do it all. And there are other small animal rescues around. And as we all know, no matter who you call, most are full. We can't keep up with the demand. So we need help from more shelters to accept rabbits in the first place and to help with adoption programs, spays and neuters, and finding good homes for bunnies to try to break that cycle of bunnies coming from pet stores and backyard breeders, that type of thing. we would like to be able to offer our help to those shelters who could use some extra education of their staff. We'll come in and train. We can provide care sheets, and we can give advice. We can also talk with adopters if they want to contact us through our online sites to give them some information on housing and food and all, and which vets are better choices for bunnies. We have a lot of expertise in catching strays and also in helping with large-scale confiscations. We can help with triage and gendering and nail trimming and those types of things. We spend a lot of time working with shelters and in shelters, so we're very comfortable in that environment. We also understand the sensitivity of ongoing investigations and being discreet in those situations when animals are involved. We have a lot of contacts both in Indiana and across the country with shelters, vets, rescues, transporters. We have been involved with moving rabbits across the country as needed if there is a big confiscation, but we can create a lot of resources usually for shelters, even if it's just finding a spot that has some room for a few bunnies to ease the burden on a local shelter. But pet store and Craigslist rabbit sales are just as troubling for us as they are for people in the dog and cat community. There are fewer rabbits in pet stores these days, but they're certainly still there. And a whole lot of our bunnies come from impulse buys for kids. They thought the little bunny would stay in a cage, came from the pet store, and oh, now it's growing up and it's no fun anymore for the family. So they want to find a place to take that bunny. But what we want to do is get more shelters involved to help us with that process so there is a place for those bunnies to go. And of course, spay neuter is very important to us, not just from a population perspective, but also the health of the bunnies. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But trying to find some low-cost options is a goal of ours, and we'd like to partner with other organizations in Indiana to do that. So what's it like to have a bunny in the house? We have a video here put together through our national organization that's short and fun about bunnies as a companion.
I'm Amy Sedaris. Did you know that rabbits are the third most relinquished animals in shelters across the United States? Why? Because so many people buy them on impulse without knowing anything about their care. That's what happened to me with my first bunny. Parents often think that rabbits are great low-maintenance starter pets for small children, but nothing could be further from the truth. Rabbits are commitments. Most rabbits don't like to be picked up and carried around, which means they are often better pets for adults than for small children. Did you know that rabbits use litter boxes? Did you know they can live much better and safer lives indoors than out of doors? Many rabbits can live peacefully with domesticated cats and well-behaved dogs. Some even form very strong bonds with these other species. They love the companionship of their own species, but both males and females must be spayed and neutered so they can live peacefully together without having litters every month. Rabbits need lots of out-of-cage exercise time in a stimulating and rabbit-proofed environment. Rabbits have health care needs just like other companion animals, and they need to see specially trained veterinarians. In fact, a well-cared-for rabbit can live 10 years or longer, just as long as many breeds of dogs. Did you know that you can adopt a spayed or neutered rabbit from a rescue group or shelter? I did. That's how I got my second bunny. If you think you're ready to bring some bunny love into your life, visit rabbit.org for more information.
This poster, the Did You Know poster, talks through a lot of the myths about owning a bunny. It's a little hard to see on this screen, but we do have this available for folks. We can email it to you. You can print it to hang in an area of your shelter. It also comes in a poster format. But this is a really good, accessible way to teach people that bunnies don't just stay in a cage. There's some good tips on here about how they're not really the greatest pets for kids sometimes. They can use litter boxes. They like toys. The fact that they live 10 plus years. They need a special veterinarian who sees rabbits and is familiar with their care. And probably one of the bigger questions we hear from folks is they get a baby rabbit for their kids and the bunny doesn't want to stay in a cage anymore, and trying to help them through that process where how spay and neutering and alternate larger housing with playtime, and not carrying the bunny around since they're prey animals and feel like the hawk's carrying them off. Those are all ways to make friends with your bunny and make them feel more secure, and they'll end up being a much better pet for most families. Most important thing about bunnies is eating and pooping. If they're eating and pooping, you don't have an emergency, generally speaking. And part of that success story is around eating lots and lots of hay. So bunnies need lots of hay. Adult bunnies need a grass hay like Timothy. Alfalfa hay is really not appropriate for adult rabbits. It's good for growing babies, however. And this pyramid kind of talks through how the green salad and tons of hay and limited pellets are something that bunnies would have daily, but just a tiny bit of the treats. And carrots are actually a treat. Carrot tops are a great part of the leafy salad, though. Litter box training. Bunnies tend to kind of self-train. They like to go in one spot usually, especially once they're spayed and neutered. They're much better about that. But they like to graze while they poo, and so we tend to put the hay in the litter box or right next to it, so Bunny can munch and do all his pooping. They do a better job once they're altered, and there's some safer litters than others for rabbits. I know that sometimes shelters have shavings donated that might not be a great choice. We want to stay away from pine and cedar shavings and stay away from clay cat litter. But some of the paper-based bedding, such as Carefresh, yesterday's news pellets are good. Compressed pine pellets are good, like the type you would use in equine pine. That works really well for bunnies. It's very cost-effective for most families and shelters. Bunnies do poop at least 300 times a day, sometimes 400. So it's a lot of poop to clean up. You might as well have them put it in a litter box and make it easy on you. Importance of spay and neuter. It's not just to avoid having baby bunnies, which that's a very important reason, but if you only have one bunny, why spay or neuter? There are some behavioral benefits. Once that bunny hits puberty, they tend to want to bite and scratch and kick and maybe hump your cat and might mark with urine all over, but spaying and neutering can really curb a lot of those behaviors. One of the biggest reasons, though, is that females in particular have somewhere around an 80% chance of developing uterine cancer when they're not altered. So we really push for the spays and neuters of the bunnies to make sure that they stay healthy. It also, of course, allows the bunny to be bonded with another bunny, and we'll even do this with bunnies who are quite old. We sometimes hear people say, oh, my bunny's too old to be altered. We just do some blood work and make sure that there's no underlying conditions, and make sure we're using a bunny savvy vet. The pictured bunny is Nash. He came from animal control in Indianapolis, and he was spraying urine so badly that we were called by the shelter to ask if he had a medical condition because he was shooting it across the room, hitting all the other rabbits in the room. It was pretty spectacular. Once we got him neutered, it did take him a lot longer than our other bunnies, but after a month or two, he actually is perfect with his litter box, and he's not spraying urine all over anymore, which of course is a reason for surrender if a bunny's going to be making that big of a mess. So now he's a great option for an adoption. Gendering rabbits. A lot of people get this wrong without pushing to see what's going on down there. They both kind of look the same. So we've got a little bit of an illustration here, but keep in mind that if bunnies come in and are not gendered properly and they're together, it only takes 30 days until the babies arrive. And additionally, if the male is still present when the female gives birth, then she gets pregnant again immediately. And usually the second litter is even larger. So it's really critical to get bunnies gendered properly when they come in. If they come in as babies, keep looking as they grow up because it gets easier to tell once they get bigger. The males typically have the testicles drop by around 3 months, so that makes it a little bit easier to tell, but just keep an eye on that. It's not something you want to end up with additional litters and more bunnies to place. This next part is part of a presentation that was put together specifically around sheltering and especially housing bunnies in shelters. So I've modified this a little bit for this audience, but just wanted to reiterate about bunnies as companion animals, using litter boxes. They are affectionate. Everybody has a different personality. And they're not starter pets. They are going to live a long time. The kids go off to school or get bored. They don't stay in a cage. They need exercise. They need veterinary care. They're not a cheap starter pet. A reminder on domestic versus wild rabbits. Here in Indiana, we have cottontails. They're a different species. They're not the same as the rabbits that you are finding in pet stores or that people are breeding or bringing to your shelter. They can't even breed with each other. They're specifically different species. You might find a domestic